Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be working on how to wrap a seamless vinyl wrap around a camper mug. If you don't know, the 12 by 12 sheets of vinyl are not wide enough to fit around these camper mugs. They're about an inch or so short. So we're going to work on a solution on how to be able to seamlessly wrap that without it looking intentional. So I skipped the part where I glittered this, and we're starting out at 2 coats of epoxy. Just a quick rundown, I painted a medium pink base on this, and this is the new glitter called Lovey from the January Peachy palette. I will include a link to Peachy's website below. I do have a discount code with her as well. And then we're going to start off with sanding this. I'm using an 80 grit sanding block on this tumbler. Just kind of a rough once over. You don't want to rub too hard or you're going to end up causing the glitter color to flake off. And once I've got that all sanded down where it's smooth to touch and it's not going to show any bumps underneath the vinyl, we're just going to go over it with a paper towel and some rubbing alcohol to make sure we get all of those epoxy flakes or dust off of there, and then we'll go in with our vinyl. Alright, so now that we've got the cup wiped down and cleaned, we're going to go in with a measuring tape, and I'm measuring the space between the inner gapping of the handle, if that makes sense, and then I would cut it down by just a couple of centimeters to account for the gold vinyl striping that we're going to end up putting in there as well. So it ended up being about 2 inches. You'll have to measure your cup. Each one is going to vary just a little bit, but it's about 2 inches. This is a Craft Haven camper mug, so if that's what you're using, you should be able to get by with a 2-inch cut on your vinyl. So I'm going to go in with the hinge method, and I'm trying to figure out the center point of where I want my decal to be. So I'm going to put the vinyl through the handle, and then I'm going to cut that little backing off of this vinyl, and I'm going to place it at the point where I want the center of my vinyl or my decal to be. So when we put that circle decal or that metallic vinyl circle on there, it's going to cover that right at the centermost point of this cup. I've told you guys this before, but this gold textured vinyl covers every little bump, so I'm not going to bother epoxying over this printable vinyl before I lay down this metallic vinyl. You're not going to see it whatsoever, even though you're laying it over top of another sheet of vinyl. It's completely hidden underneath that, all of that texture. So we're just going to go in with 2 little pieces of 0.08 by 11.5 width vinyl, and this is from Cricut. I've linked that in the description box as well. I use this for everything in addition to that other gold vinyl that I'm always using, so I love this. I don't love that it's Cricut brand, but it does work well for being Cricut brand. So I'm gonna lay that down, and then once I get both of those stripes down, I'm gonna go in with a coat of polyacrylic just to make sure that's not going to lift before we're adding the circle and the decal over top of that. So we're gonna go in, I would say let it dry for about 30 minutes. You can always hit it with your heat gun to make sure that it's dry to the touch, and it will dry in a couple of minutes. And then once that's done, I'm going to cut my circle out at 3 inches. I put the circle shape in my Cricut Design Space app, and then I imported this SVG. This is from Made by Manny and Mel. I do have a discount code with her for all of her digital products. I will link that in the description as well. But when I cut out my circle at 3 inches, or when I placed it in Design Space at 3 inches, I just resized the decal to fit within that 3 inches. And then I cut it out that way because I knew that the height of this tumbler was about 4 inches. I wanted about a ½ inch of gapping on both the top and the bottom. So I cut that out initially just in gold, and when I placed it, there was some overlapping. So I went back and I scored where the circle was hitting on the striped vinyls. Because this wasn't epoxied over, obviously it lifted right up. This vinyl is super thick, so it's easy to lift it without causing any visual problems or any problems with it laying back down. I just rubbed it with my nail to make sure everything laid flat. And then once I got that on, I realized that it looks like a wrestling belt. So I went back into Design Space and I cut an offset for the 3-inch circle that I had created, and in the floral pattern vinyl that I had laid on it below this. So I went back and I cut that offset. I just sliced the offset so I didn't have to put it underneath the gold vinyl. So I just laid it right over top of what I had already laid down, and then I applied the decal. So once I had the light pink and that medium metallic pink vinyl applied to the cup, I went back over it with another coat of polyacrylic, and like I said, either dry to the touch after about 30 minutes, or hit it with your heat gun. Just make sure not to get your heat gun too close, or it's going to bubble up that polyacrylic, and that's not going to go away under epoxy. So once that was dry, I just did one more final coat of epoxy. Obviously that's going to vary depending on the viscosity of the epoxy that you're using. So you're gonna have to determine how many coats you're gonna need overall. I will tell you that these camper mugs, the handles on them specifically, do take a little bit more epoxy than normal, I think because it's such a blunt edge. So just be cautious of that. If you need to, you can always just coat the handle in some either UV resin so it doesn't build up over the rest of the cup, or you could just epoxy the handle and then, coat the rest of the epoxy on the rest of the cup once the handle is smooth. So that's always an option. I hope this hack was helpful for you guys. I don't see a ton of camper mugs with vinyl on them. I'm wondering if this is the reason. So hopefully this seamless design will help you guys in creating other things in the future. If you love it, let me know what you thought in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell button if you want to get notified for my weekly tutorials that I'm dropping. If you would like to join my Mitten Makers Facebook group, I will link that in the description box as well. And I will see you guys next weekend.